I gathered in His name. He has promised to be there to set their hearts aflame. And right now I sense the nearness of His presence in our midst. What a privilege to feel His presence, and oh, how sweet it is. So sweet is the Spirit when it moves among His people. Hearts are melted, lives are changed, and dreams restored. He brings healing for every heartache. He has a promise for every problem. Just so sweet is the Spirit of the Lord. These very walls cry out the glory of the Lord.
All right. Hey, guys. Good morning. Ooh, I have a tendency of forgetting to put the lights on. Now I come in dark. Okay. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Day 13. I keep wanting to say day 14. I think I am rushing. Yeah, day 14. I hope you are well. I hope you are still going strong. I hope you are still committed. I hope you are still praying. And I hope that you are thanking God. That sometimes when you embark on a process that takes long, you need something to sustain yourself, so that you do not run that risk of tapering off and even giving up on it. I shared yesterday that one of the things that helps is to just look at each day, right? To not look at how many days you've got to go through, but to just say, Lord, sustain me. Give me this day. Give me this particular mountain, day 13, right? The other thing that I think would help, especially with prayer, is that as you go, you either become complacent. You're like, okay, I'm praying now. Okay, it's 9 o'clock, I'm praying. It's 12 o'clock, I'm praying, etc., etc. But you don't want that. You want to be fervent. You want to still have those prayers that are life-giving, right? That are encouraging, that leave you feeling like I have just spoken to Jesus. And one of the things that I find helps in that regard is gratitude. It's gratitude that on some of the days you do not ask God for your list of bold prayer items, which are being answered. By the way, I am getting I'm getting inboxes of miracles that God is pulling off in our lives. But you can, even with those miracles, you can easily become complacent. You can easily, your Ellen White speaks about dry formality, that you can easily be going to prayer during the prayer times just to tick the block. It's 9 o'clock, it's time to pray. No, it's 9 o'clock. It's an opportunity to sit at the feet of Jesus. I have an opportunity to sit and talk to God. And sometimes you go there, I don't want to repeat the same things. Don't repeat the same things. Spend a moment and just flashback over the past few days, right? Over the past 14, 13 days, and thank God. And so we cannot afford to lose fervor, right? We cannot afford to lose excitement. We cannot afford to lose energy. We can't afford to do that, because we are after something else. After day 21, we are going to move on to the next level. And that next level is going to require a different version of you than the one that you are now. But we are human. Your old version Umntu wakho, your 2025 person is trying to come through. And I'm speaking now for myself. It's trying to push through so that you can go and fall back to your old habits, to your old thoughts, to your old patterns, to your old whatever. We all run that risk. We all run that risk. And perhaps that is what today's message is all about. All right. I see many of you have begun. Good morning, ladies. I see many have begun, and that is hitting the like and the love button. Please do so. Like this broadcast. Love this broadcast. Tag, if you do not mind, tag somebody so that they can also come and be blessed here. Share, if you don't mind sharing onto your WhatsApp status. If you are on YouTube, it's easy. You copy the link at the top. In fact, if you're on YouTube through your phone, you hit the share button. It will show you the various options as to where you can share. On Facebook, it's easy. Many people know how to share on Facebook. The aim is to spread the message of grace. I'm getting testimonies from people that are not in the group, but they keep following these messages via the various platforms. So thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. And then, of course, let me take my greetings. All right. I'm going to struggle to read this name. Kioletile is joining us from Maun this morning. So Maun is in the house. Tselane from Randburg. Good morning, Tselane. Thank you so much. Mabukang, good morning. And Kiana from Maun as well. Maun seems to be in the house this morning. Tuane, good morning. Esme, good morning. Joyce, welcome. Malerato, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Nomvuyo. All right, there it is, ladies. For the sake of time, I am just going to reflect the greetings. Okay, and up to Nosipo, these ladies joined just before. Maichi, good morning. Tandiwe, good morning. Weziwe, good morning, etc., etc. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining. So we greet and we tell each other where it is that you are joining us from, because you know what, you may have a friend and a neighbor at the theater of grace. Okay, all right. Now, before we go to the message of today, which kind of humbles me. So Barbara is doing what I'm asking us to do, right? To tag other people. Josejo, doing the same, says thank you, to tag other people. All right, before we go to the message of today, which I doubt will animate me, which I doubt will energize me, but if that does happen, then I'll let the Spirit go where the Spirit wants to go. Let me remind you once more, all right? Let me remind you once more of our appointment later in the year. Now, October seems like it's very, very far. But October is just around the corner because January is now almost finished, right? So we are now not even 10 months away. We are 9 months away from our big day, all right? And registration is ongoing. At the top of this broadcast, you will see the link there, all right? But I've given my details here. If you can't get in through that, please drop me a message. Get in so that we can meet together in person from the 23rd to the 26th of October, right here in the Gabs, as we call it here, the locals. But it's Port Elizabeth, South Africa. Beautiful town. For those of you who have never been here or you've hardly been here, it's an amazing place. And our location is fantastic. I think I was talking to somebody else about our prayer walks. My queen, our prayer walks are going to be absolutely lit because directly across the sea, we are right there, all right? Some people might even go for a dip, all right, as part of the prayer walk. So I'm looking forward to our Theatre of Grace conference. Bear with me if I keep sharing it. They say sharing is caring. I don't want to leave anybody out. Okay, we are in 2 Samuel chapter 12, ladies. We are in 2 Samuel chapter 12. Those of us who had joined yesterday will know that we are following our brother David, right? The greatest king there ever was, but also a man that God himself elevated. It is one thing for us, it is one thing for us to speak well of you. That's one thing, right? It is a whole different story when God himself speaks well of you in our presence. That is something else. 2 Samuel chapter 12. It is a whole different story. And God elevated David. God speaks so well of David. Jesus is called the lion. Jesus is called the son of David, as if there were no other kings before David or no other people before David, but there was. So this is a great man. Great, great, great man. But we spoke yesterday about how he got to the fall, right? About how he got to the fall. And one of the things that hit me about, like I said to you, I'm humbled by this story. And reading Ellen White, as she says that some of the fathers, questioned why would God include this story? The story of the fall of David, and the story, if you know, in John chapter 8, the story of Mary Magdalene, and a woman caught in the act. Why would God not eliminate that story so that it does not put a blotch or a bad patch in the history and in the lineage of Jesus? Because Jesus is in the direct lineage of David. Why would God do that? Why would God not take out that story? And that is where I want to take this, because we can talk. We spoke a little bit about it. It's important for us to talk about it because we are the ones that are wanting to pursue greatness. So it's important for us to talk about the risks that are involved as you rise. All right. So as you take the call to rise, falling is always a risk. And perhaps we can write that down, right? As you take the call to rise, as you arise, but in fact, arising is an outcome of having fallen. But as you rise, falling is part of the risk. And I'll ask you to write that down. That I'm getting ahead of myself now. But there's always the risk of falling. In your rising, in your pursuit for greatness, there's always the risk of falling. But my question this morning, what I want us to pursue, is why did God want to include that story? As we are writing, the book of this great man, this great king, David, why did God want to also include this mighty fall of David? Somebody please write this thing about risk. As you rise, risk is always possible. Now I've given you 2 Samuel chapter 12 as our story. All right, that's where we are. But can I ask you please, and I'm going to the end of my message now. I need help with the tears. I need help with the tears. So you've got your 2 Samuel chapter 12, right? But go also please to Matthew chapter 1, right? Go to Matthew chapter 1 as well. And as you read Matthew chapter 1, the very first verse says, this is a record of the ancestors of Jesus, the Messiah, a descendant of David and Abraham. This man never lost his position of greatness as far as God was concerned. This is a record of the ancestors of Jesus, the Messiah. It doesn't get as bigger than Jesus. And then there are two mere mortals that get mentioned. I have no time to pursue Abraham. But I can sort of understand that Abraham would make it, his name would come up. But David, after everything that we now know, as we heard the story of David yesterday, but he must come up in the same line as the word Jesus, in the same line where we mention Jesus the Messiah. David comes, a descendant of David. There were other kings after David. There were other kings, other great people before David. But in spite of the fall, David, and I need us to know this, David never lost his position in the eyes of Jesus. Akatshintshi uThixo, akawatshintsha amehlo asijonge ngawo when we fall or if we fall. Now, that's number 1, verse 1, right? Matthew 1, verse 1. A descendant of David and a descendant of Abraham. And then it goes down and it lists the order. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and it continues and it continues. But then there is also verse 6, where it says, Boaz was the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Obed was the father of Jesse. Jesse was the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon. And then in brackets, whose mother was Bathsheba, the widow of Uriah. I'm in awe of God and how he tells the story. But in it, I also find a little bit of encouragement. For those of us, I'm not trying to go back to 2 Samuel as well. 2 Samuel chapter 12, right? 2 Samuel chapter 12. I told you that this for me is a mystery, and I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find why was it important for God? Why was it important for God to bring this story, to tell the full story, right? To tell us the full story about a man that he has associated himself with. In other words, this man, you know how people say birds of the feather, right? Birds of the feather flock together. People say, show me your friends, right? Show me your friends. I'll tell your character. Imagine what that must mean for Jesus, because he was the friend of tax collectors. He was a friend of sinners. He was a friend of David. David's the one who took somebody else's wife. He was a friend of sinners. So if we say of Jesus, show me your friends and I'll tell you your character, what does that say to us about Jesus? What does it say to us about Jesus? Anyway, so now here's where I'm going with this story. And this is what God revealed to me. And that is that the very reason why people, let's go back to Marianne Williamson, right? Which we spoke about the other day. It's one of my favorite quotes, right? Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. But I can't go through the whole thing. But there's that line in that story which says that as you let your light shine, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. I saw something in somebody's status yesterday. I think to us D status. I'm gonna come back to that. I hope to remember. So in that beautiful, powerful statement, and it is backed up by Matthew chapter 5. As you let your lights shine, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. Matthew says, they do not ignite the light or switch on the light and put it under the bushel and under the table. They take the light and put it on a high place, so that as it shines in that high place, it shows the way to many, many other people. And as you shine, you unconsciously give other people permission to shine as well. And Matthew says, let your light so shine before men that they might see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. But what happens, Simhloba, when, as you are up there on the one building, as you are up there on top of the table shining, what happens when, or if, let me not say when, because sin is always a possibility, but never a necessity. But what happens if that light gets snuffed out? What then of the people that were blessed by your light? What then of the glory of God that was rising up to him every single time your light was shining? What then of those people? What then of the people that you were unconsciously giving permission to shine because you are shining? Now your light has been snuffed out. Because remember, as you let your light shine, as people are unconsciously being blessed by your light, as people are seeing your good works and glorify God in heaven, there is a man There is a force, by the way. There is an army which is offended by your light. There is an army which is looking at your light and it is irritated by your light, and they will do whatever is in their power day in, day out to snuff out your light. And if they can't do it externally, they will come in internally and basically snuff out your light from within. And that is what happened. We mentioned it yesterday, that David was conquered by the dragon that is within. What happens then when your light that was there, that was shining bright for everybody and showing everybody the way, giving others permission to do the same? What happens when that light goes out? I will tell you what happens. And this is what my friend Status was saying yesterday. It shows a picture of a lion, Mufasa. And then it shows the picture of Simba, a big lion and a small lion. And the words that were written there from the big lion, it says, "I almost gave up, but then I saw this one," referring to the lion. Let me tell you something. Verse 1 of 2 Samuel chapter 12, it speaks of the character of God. It says, "So the Lord sent Nathan." Now, remember David. David was entangled and he was continuing with the entanglement, right? David was entangled. He fell. He tried to cover his sin by trying to get Uriah to come home. Uriah doesn't come home. And so he can't come home. So he had him killed. So David was entangled. David had not arrived. His light was snuffed out, but he had not arrived at that place where he saw, whether he saw or not, the error of his ways. Now, God had two options: to allow that entanglement, that distraction, that path to continue. There you were shining, and something rises up within you and it drops you and it snuffs out your light. There you are on the wall building, and something rises up within you. The enemy somehow finds a way to conquer you, and there you are on the floor. You are no longer building. Heaven has got two options. To let you stay there fallen until the day, like it happened with the prodigal son. The Bible says when he came to himself, what you up and on. Sometimes heaven does that. Waits for you to come to yourself, but the Holy Spirit continues to nudge you. But sometimes heaven, and this is what Ellen White says. She says, heaven had to interpose. We spoke about this in one of the messages, I think Garments of Grace, where God did not wait for David to feel remorseful. God sent Nathan. Let me say this in passing to us as the community. I pray that God may raise up Nathans in our midst. That when you see that this man has come, even as it is dimming and dulling down, before my light even goes completely out, that as you see my light dulling down, that you don't even wait, my lioness, for my light to go out and then talk to people that she is now lower, that was doing X, Y, and Z. That same David that killed Goliath, that's how the mighty have fallen. That before we go there, that you would offer yourself to God and say, Lord, if you need a Nathan, if you need someone to go to Tabitha, if you need someone to go to Anne, I will be that person. I pray to God that God may always give us Nathans in our midst, Nathans in our community, that people who, when they, even before I fall, even before my light goes out, that they would raise their hand and say, I will go to her. Jamon. But what we do as people, we see you. And sometimes people silently, privately celebrate. There's a chill. And that, by the way, is why God had to interpose. Guys, that is why God had to interpose, because God had, yes, David in mind. He had David in mind, but God had many who would try to rise tomorrow, but would not even start to rise, because you know what? When you rise, yes, you kill Goliath. Yes, you kill the lion. Yes, you win wars, but you fall. And the higher the rise, the bigger the fall. And I cannot risk that. So let me rather not even begin. Right? Let me rather not begin. So some people tell a story of, is it monkeys? Is it monkeys? And sometimes we decide, but even the community says, don't do it, because you'll fall. And if you fall, look at what happened to Ban. We were celebrating them here. They were a celebrity. They were doing well. And look at what happened to them now. They are falling. They have fallen. God had to interpose on behalf of David, yes, but for many who were looking up to David, for many who were benefiting from that light that was shining, for many who looked at him and said, if God can take a mere mortal from the dusty streets of Bethlehem and make him king, that maybe God can also make me. But now he has fallen. The risk is too big. I will not even begin. A story is told, as I read this up. A story is told of these motivational speakers often use the story of monkeys who were in a community, and so what happens is that one of the monkeys was trying to jump for the higher fruits, up on this particular tree. And when that monkey took the jump, all right, he was hit. He was injured and he was killed as he was trying to rise. You know what happened to the rest of the community? They never dared to rise. Why? Because if you rise, you run the risk of being killed up there. If you rise, the air gets thin as you rise. And as you rise, you run the risk of standing out. One, because people are being blessed, right? People are being blessed. But also, as you rise, the enemy gets more and more and more offended, and more and more and more determined. But I am so glad. I am so grateful for 1 John chapter 2. My little children, I write you these things that you may not sin, full stop. But if you sin, you have an advocate with the Father. If you rise, and somewhere in your rising, you take the eyes off of me, I am so glad about Matthew chapter 14, that I call you to walk upon the water. I call you to do the impossible. And as long as you keep your eyes on me, you will walk and not faint. You will run and not be weary. But if you fall, I am still on top of the water. All you have to do is call on me. No matter what the time, call on me, and I will be there immediately to grant. You have an advocate with the Father. But here is something that I love, that the advocate does not wait for you to approach him, because too many people were looking up to you. And if I allow this to continue, many people are not even going to dare to rise, because look at what happens when people rise. Let me close. So Nathan goes to David. I know I'm running a little bit out of time, but Nathan goes to David and tells the parable. We know how he approached it. He approaches it in the form of a parable, and David decides on the harshest of punishment. And of course, we hear those words from the prophet Nathan. That man is you, O king. Ladies, I pray that we rise and never fall. But if we fall, goodness and mercy, the advocate, I pray that he might chase you. But when he does come, get rid of the chip on the shoulder. Get rid of the chip on the shoulder. When he does come and reveals to you the error of your ways, as he reveals to you the error of the ways, I pray that God may also give us the spirit of confession, of opening our eyes and say, I was wrong. I messed up here. I shouldn't have. Sometimes what makes the rising so difficult is that you are still holding on to why you did it. It doesn't matter why you did it. The reason for the mistake is irrelevant. You fell. I pray that God may give us the spirit of confession. David confesses, and the story continues. So when God says to you, that man is you, that you would confess. And Psalms 51, begins with those words. Have mercy on me according to your unfailing love. And later down the line, David knew that the only way I'm going to get up from this is I need to be a new person. For me to be a new person, I need a new heart. Create in me a new heart, oh Lord. I love, then there are two lines that are my favorite. He says to me, I deserve it. I deserve the harshest of punishment. I deserve the humiliation that may come with this, but please, even in spite of that, as I will go through the consequences of my decision, right? And the bigger the rise, the bigger the fall, and the bigger the consequences. But as I go through the consequences of my fall, don't banish me from your presence. As I am mopping up the mess I have created, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. As I am mopping up the mess I have created, don't banish me from your presence. As I may even suffer some of the consequences, the ridicule that will follow thereafter, the gossip mongering that will follow thereafter. The only way I'll be able to get back up, in spite the gossip, in spite the ridicule, in spite the laughter of the enemy. Lord, don't banish me from your presence. Let me remain in your presence. Restore unto me the joy of your salvation, the joy of walking with you, the joy of being up there rising, the joy of shining, the joy of shining. Let me shine no matter what, even in spite of what I did yesterday. And then he says, don't take your Holy Spirit from me. Don't ungasusi Nkosi umoya wakho kum noqandonile. I love this song by B.B. Winans. He took he's got this one, Humpty Dumpty. My friend Lulu gave me this song a long time ago. Humpty Dumpty. Many of you know Humpty Dumpty, the recitation Humpty Dumpty said on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. The risk of being up there building is that not only will you fall, but great can be the fall. That's the risk we spoke about, that not only will you run the risk of falling, but you run the risk of having a great fall. And heaven had to interpose. And this is the message, before I forget it, this is the message that heaven is sending in interposing for David. This is the message that heaven is sending in coming to the rescue of Mary Magdalene. Is saying that the grace of God, which brings salvation, has appeared to all men. God needed to send a message to all those who were benefiting from the bright light of David, from the magnanimity of David, as Ellen White was putting it, to say, he may have fallen now, but this is what I do if you fall. And ukushiyi enyunywini, as I would put it, and ukushiyi enyunywini. So rise. Yes, there's a risk that you'd fall, but rise in spite the possibility that you fall, because you have a hand all powerful that will catch you if you fall and put you back on the road called straight. I do not have time. Time has left me. But Nancy Ndeo Humpty Dumpty. Here's how, I love how B.B. Winans puts it. He says, have you heard the story once before? Oh yes, about the famous one up on the wall. He says, yes, fairy tales reflect on truth that sometimes happens to us all. And so if ever, and this is the line, you may even be that Humpty Dumpty, but if you know somebody, be a Nathan to them. If you see Humpty Dumpty or anybody else who has had a fall, please tell them that he is mending broken pieces and he is there to fix it all. If ever you see or you are Humpty Dumpty, right? Or anyone who's had a fall, whatever the fall, tell them that he, the son of David, mends broken pieces and is able to fix it all, still for his glory and still for the betterment of people's lives. So is it possible that you will fall? highly possible. But he's mending broken pieces. So rise. Is it possible that you are fallen despite the broken pieces? Give them to Jesus. He has a way. He has a way. Remember what he said to Ezekiel, can these bones live again? He has a way. Let's leave it here. We are way beyond time today, and apologies for that. Apologies for that. But let's go and let's go to our prayer session. Thank you, ladies. Blessed day 13.